What's good, everybody? I hope that you all are having a great day today. I'm Hajal, your animated motivator, and today I'm going to be talking about your reaction to stressful or dangerous situations. Now, growing up, I've always heard that there was two reactions that you could have in dangerous situations, and that was your fight or flight responses. And probably about 5 years ago, I heard of another one, and it's one I should have been familiar with, and it was freeze. So there's fight, flight, or freeze. I'm going to be talking about all three of these, and I'm going to be telling you why, in dealing with social anxiety, that all three are not the right way to deal with it. I'm going to start with freeze, and I believe to freeze is probably the worst way that you can deal with situations because of the feeling that it gives you. I mean, it's you're literally stuck, and it's the perfect name because you feel like you are in a block of ice. Anybody with social anxiety should already know why this is not the correct way to deal with it. Such a terrible feeling that it leaves you with. You feel like you can't handle the situation. You have no reaction. You're just stuck. You do nothing. And I don't believe that nobody should believe that this is the correct way to deal with a situation is a freeze. Next is flight. Now I must admit that as I became older, I learned to be an escapist. Like I learned to get away from situations before they became a big deal, before the fear, the essay took over, before I started sweating. I learned to get away from certain situations. I ran, I fled when I felt the pressure coming on. And that's not the correct way to deal with it either, because you're still not facing the situation. But I have to admit, it was a better way of dealing with it. I mean, because you had that feeling that you just wanted to get out of a situation so bad. And it was better to deal with it that way than to stay in the situation and end up freezing. So I would think that that's a rung up on the ladder, higher than freezing, but still not the right way to deal with social situations. So the next response is your fight response. And I have to admit that in the physical sense, if you're in physical danger, like you have a dog attacking you, you have a person attacking you, in the physical manner, to fight to defend yourself, that's not a bad thing at all. I mean, sometimes you have to defend yourself. But we are fighting a internal battle. This is an internal battle against, if you're going to use fighting against social anxiety, and it's almost like fighting against yourself and fighting within the mind. That can leave you physically exhausted. In another word, and it also can leave you broken. I'm going to give an example that I read by an author named Osho. He said to imagine that there was a huge thunderstorm, and within that thunderstorm, you see the big trees, the biggest, strongest trees. Why is it the next day the biggest, strongest trees are left broken? And you look at some little flowers, some little thin flowers, and they are still intact. Why is that? Why is that? Why is the biggest, strongest trees, the big, strong trees left broken? And the answer was because it fought against the thunderstorm. The big, strong tree stood still and fought, and they were left broken the next day. Yet you have these little flowers that went along, that flowed with the winds, flowed back and forth, and they were left intact. So that's what you get when you fight against this thunderstorm called social anxiety. If you fight against it, you can be left broken. So how do we deal with this? How do we deal with it? It was used an example. The fourth way, the F that I'm adding on is flow. You must flow with it. You must flow with your anxiety. You must sit there and allow it. Allow it. Fighting against it, flight, running from it, freezing, them are not the ways to handle it. You have to flow. You have to flow. And meditation, it helps you to basically relax and ease into it. And Osho gave another example of a thunderstorm. He said, in the same thunderstorm, imagine that you were going to leave your porch and you were going to walk off into this thunderstorm. What happens when you walk off and you go into the thunderstorm? Then it's like you are involved in it. You're up close in it. You're fighting the winds. You're going back and forth, and that thunderstorm is going to mess you up if you are in it. That's what happens when you're up close and personal and involved in your storm, your personal anxiety storm. You're so close to it and you're involved in it. It's like being out into that thunderstorm. But he says that you can go up on your porch and sit back and relax on your porch, and you can actually enjoy that thunderstorm if you're sitting on your porch and you're not in the thunderstorm. We got to learn how to do the same thing with our anxiety. It is tough. It is so tough. But if we can sit back, flow, allow it to flow, relax and flow, and sit back and don't get too up close and personal. Don't beat yourself up too much. Don't get too up close and personal to it. Sit back and relax and let it and allow. Let it go through. So what you're afraid, so what you're fearful, so what you're going through it, and not be up so close the next day. You can, I'm not going to say you can going to enjoy it, but you can see it from a different perspective. Yeah, so those are the 4 F's. Fight, flight, freeze, and the new one I'm saying that we should all start to try to do is flow. Sit back, relax, and allow yourself to flow. All right. Y'all have a good day now.